All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I forgot that we were doing the opposed to make it easier for your note taking, Sharon. All right, so minutes are approved. Before we jump in to see if there are any public comments, a couple of reminders that if you are not speaking during this meeting, please keep yourself on mute. To the extent possible, depending on which device you're in, it'll be easier to find any of the hand raising or chatting with Sharon or myself if there are questions or comments, or if any public comment would like to occur during any of the conference agenda items. So just trying to keep that organized in the midst of this virtual reality. So moving on to item number 3, any public comment for items that are not on today's agenda. If you have any, you're welcome to raise your hand or text Sharon or myself through the chat option. Does not look like we've got any, Sharon, unless you're seeing something.
No?
I see Sylvia
All
Easton.
right.
Yeah,
I see a hand up.
Yeah,
Sylvia Easton.
I am not seeing that. So Sylvia,
I'm not
a
seeing
couple
it
people
either.
said you've got your hands up. Go for it.
I'm just unmuting myself. Can you hear me?
Hi, Sylvia.
Yes.
I don't think this is officially on the agenda. I know that we have there's a speaker from the CSDA today, but I just wanted to introduce myself to those of you who don't know me. And I serve on the Montecito Fire Protection District, and I'm in my 2nd term as president, and I am running for re-election. So I just wanted to mention that and introduce myself.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're getting a lot of waves and highs if you can't see them. So thank you for tuning in today. All right, I think that covers it on public comment. And with that, we will jump into community reports. Amy, I know you've got at least an additional item underneath yours, so why don't you start us off and then we'll move into your second comment.
Thank you. I'm going to start off by a big thank you to you all, and Sharon especially. I connected with her and about our needs for re-entering school, and we're building outdoor classrooms right now, and Renee reached out to me from Village Properties, and because of your guys' outreach, they are donating a 30 by 30 tent or a canopy, outdoor canopy for us, which is super expensive. They're $6,000. So we are so grateful. So thank you guys for spreading the love about us. We really, really appreciate it as we're building these outdoor classrooms. As you know, we submitted our waiver as well as MUS, and I love having a partnership with MUS as that team. And so what I've been doing all last week and today's my last one, I'm doing grade level presentations. So 7 of them, right? So all the different grade levels, parent presentations via Zoom, giving parents an opportunity to engage, and so they feel really confident about our reentry plan. And we have about closer now to 90% of our families wanting in person. And the piece that I am just so proud of our teachers in that they are also offering a robust remote learning plan for that 10%. So no student is getting left behind in this. All students are getting an amazing education. And so what it looks like for us for kindergarten and 1st grade is going to school half day till noon. And then 2nd through 6th grade, they have 4 half days and then 1 full day. And the 1 full day is where they have art, music, and our STEAM, which is project-based learning. It's on a wheel and rotation, and that those teachers are zooming in the classroom because I don't want them to see 180 students a week, but they're getting that experience and that 1 day experience. And so that will help us ease in to eventually, hopefully, a full day experience, right, for our students. But on Thursday, we're testing on site with a parent, and that is new to Cold Springs. They own MRSA Labs, and they've been so great to us. And MRSA Labs, they are testing our staff, all of our staff on Thursday, but you're welcome too. So if you want to have, it's nasal or oral, it's $125 a test. It's open to the public from 3 to 5. I know it's covered through insurance, but that will be the 2nd Thursday of every month. So just know that's available to the community. It's in our parking lot, and it's just a simple service that we hope that giving back to you all as well. And then we're doing a beautification day. The final things on a Saturday, the 19th, some parent volunteers are helping out. We have one full-time custodian. That's our groundskeeper. That's everybody here, right? One person. And so you'll often finding me cleaning toilets and scrubbing around, you know, and that's, we all have multiple hats, but we're relying upon parents to help out in that regard. And I've told them this is your opportunity to see what your child's outdoor classroom looks like too. And then on the 21st is a Monday where we don't have school. It's a no school day. And that's that one transition day that we're giving our teachers to prepare for in-person on the 22nd. So that's our date. You know, hopefully everything goes to plan. You never know with this date of where we're at, right? But that is what we are planning for in-person on September 22nd. And the other announcement that I have, I'm going to let my student do it. It's I have an amazing third grade student, Amelia Kane. Her mom, Elkie Kane, and Dylan Johnson is on this call as well. They are chairing the Cold Spring Bond Committee L 2020, and so it is on the ballot. And so Amelia is going to present to you L 2020. Go ahead, Amelia.
Hi, my name is Amelia, and I'm here to ask you if you can support our school in the bond measure.
And Amelia, do you want to tell them why it's important to support the bond measure? Do you remember?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Tell them.
Because it's important for our classes because some of them need new classrooms, and for the specialists because some of them need new areas to put their supplies.
Their supplies. Is there a specific specialist that you have in mind that you really were
The
thinking?
art teacher.
How come?
Because she's in one of the she's next to the library in a little,
In a closet, kind of. Yeah. Amelia was really excited to present. She's a little bit nervous. She's never done public speaking, but I think she did great. And mostly, we were just hoping you would consider endorsing the measure. And Dylan will happily speak more to that, I think. Do you want to say bye to her?
Great job, Amelia. Great to see you. Yeah, my name is Dylan Johnson. I'm also a parent of a third grader, one of Amelia's classmates, and a kindergartner. And as Amy mentioned, we have a parent volunteer committee trying to get the word out for L 2020 this year. As I'm sure many of you know, it's on the ballot. It's going to be down near the bottom of the ballot, given it's such a huge ballot this year. But hugely important for the school. It will authorize the school to sell $7.8 million in bonds. That equates to about $13 to $14 per year per $100,000 of assessed value. And some of our committee has calculated that's about an average of $11 a month for the homeowners in the district. So a relatively modest bond, all things considered, but we're a small school, and it's the funds are really needed to replace the deteriorating buildings and infrastructure, and also just add some real necessary classroom space. We're targeting 3 new classrooms with the growing population of this part of Montecito, to maintain the small class sizes that Cold Spring is known for, and that has led to, a reputation of being one of the top schools in the state, if not the country. Maintaining that small class size is just really critical, and these funds would allow us to do that. So thanks so much for having us here. I'm happy to answer questions. You can follow up with Amy or any of us via email afterward as well. And thank you for considering supporting the measure.
Thank you, Dylan. And that is my presentation. See, I had some great helpers today, but thank you. And any questions you have regarding the bond or reentry?
I'll open it to the board if there's any questions. I know this is something that we discussed at our executive committee at the end of last week, and I think we plan to have some further conversations around it. And I know this is coming up on the ballot, so more to come out of us in terms of kind of any questions or any commentary. But in the immediate term, is there anybody that would like to ask any further information in advance of a larger board discussion?
See, Amelia, I told you they were a great group.
Peter, I see you have a question, but you're on mute.
Thank you, Megan. I was trying to be polite. Amy, Which taxpayers of Montecito would be paying into that bond payoff? It's not all of Montecito.
Right, it's just the Cold Springs School District residents. Correct, Peter.
Thank you.
We love for everyone, though. You know, we take donations.
Oh, yeah, I the hat.
And it might have been stated and I might have missed it, but what is the term of that? I got that it equates to about $11 a month, but what is the term?
30 years, 30 years.
Okay. Thank you. All right, well, first rule of thumb, always have a student present your case for you.
I'm smart. Amelia can do much better job.
Very good job, Amelia. Very good job.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, well done. You've got a future in public speaking, Amelia. All right. We will move on. We'll keep it with the education and school systems. Mr. Rainey.
I wish Amelia could give my report because she did so well. Amelia, I'm Mr. Rainey. It's nice to meet you, and you must be just getting an amazing education over at Cold Spring because you were awesome. So thanks for giving us that presentation. So as Amy said, you know, she and I work hand in hand with lots of things. So we have very similar rollouts, but there's a couple of key differences. So I'm counting on a Montecito Teachers Association vote tomorrow, and then a school board vote on Tuesday. If all goes well, we're aiming for a reopen on September 28th. So about a week after the Cold Spring start. We are planning on having mostly full days when we come back in person. We are going to be staggering the start and end time a bit, and that will allow us to make sure that not all of our 380 kids come to school at one moment, and they don't all go home at one moment, because that makes it really difficult for us to keep fidelity to the small cohorts. We've got 26 classes, and we're doing our level best to make sure that each of those classes is kept distinct in little, I've been calling them little gated gardens. So each one of our classes goes to recess and lunch separately. They'll have a separate pickup and drop off, so that it's as, we're paying as much attention to those small cohorts as we can. We actually did our testing with MRSA Labs, the same company. We did our testing today. All of our employees were tested, and we also had testing optionally for our students, as well as for the parents at Montecito Union School. And then we have a testing protocol going forward. Just as Amy does, we will have options for those families that choose to stay home. And that'll include some synchronous learning with some online Zoom type instruction, as well as packets and other things. We plan to put that to the board again Tuesday of next week. That full plan will be available for inspection for the public and public comment. Assuming we get a vote on that next week, we'll move forward with a final survey. We did have a survey where something, depending on how you ask the question, somewhere between 89 and 91% of our families wanted to have their children return to in-person learning. But we're going to be sending a final survey next week to really lock in your choice. When I say lock in, it doesn't mean that if somebody was learning at home that they couldn't come back to in-person learning if their family situation changes, but simply they're going to lock in how they're going to start the year. So that's something that we're looking forward to. Finally, we're working really hard on our southern parcel, which we've been calling the Nature Lab. We're creating an outdoor learning experience for our students, which is going to come into handy during COVID-19 for sure. We have a bridge completed to the property, and we're building an A-frame structure that is a little bit like a low tree house, and some American with Disability Act accessible pathways. And we're working on crops and some animals and some really exciting things for the students to experience science in a really hands-on way. So we'll be rolling that out all this year and into the years to come. Happy to answer any of your questions, or I might just defer to Amelia if they're hard. Megan, I think you're on mute.
I am. I said, any questions from the board for Anthony?
Grateful for all that you're doing, Superintendent Rani. It's as a parent and a board member, we're appreciative of being in a situation where you have to make tough judgment calls, and you've done a good job.
Well, parents like you and Amy are a pleasure to work with, so thanks, Marshall.
I have a general question for both you and Amy. You guys have both over the last year or so talked about kind of declining enrollment rates. And I know as recent as a few months ago, you were starting to see an uptick in that. So just as a general curiosity, where are your enrollment rates right now?
Our rates are up as compared to the end of last year. So we're still tracking as enrollment growth at MUS.
We're about 8% higher than we've ever been since I've been here. I just enrolled another student today. I'm like, no more kids. We're full.
Great. Well, that's all good news. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you both. Thank you both for what you do and for taking care of the kids the way that you do. Really, every time I listen to you, I'm going to ask the question now because I'm going to say it. But every time I listen to you, I think, well, can I just come back to school and just volley between Cold Spring and Montecito? I don't think I had as much fun as it sounds like your kids do. So,
yes, you can, Megan. We will take you. Right, Anthony?
You can go to Cold Spring. We have a lot of kids right now, so you can go to Cold Spring, Megan. That sounds good.
She's getting a little awkward in those chairs, but okay. Very tall kid came in.
All right. Let's see, Nick, are you still on the line? You don't get to join us very often and go early. So if you're on the line, I'd love to have you go.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right, great. Good afternoon, everyone. Good to be here. I haven't seen you guys in a couple of months, been really busy at the district. Just a couple of updates. Wanted to update everyone on the water supply agreement with the city. That agreement was ultimately approved by the Water District Board of Directors in June and the City Council in July. The agreement is fully executed at this point. This has, and I'm sure, we sat through the presentation that I gave several months back, but this agreement provides such a significant water supply reliability improvement for our community going forward. And so we're really glad that the community supported it. There was very little opposition that was at least expressed when the board considered approval. So anyway, I just want to provide that update. Those deliveries of that water don't actually begin taking place until January of 2022. But that is something we can look forward to for quite a long time thereafter. A couple of construction updates, just because it may inconvenience you in the community over the next couple of months. The Santa Rosa Lane project, which has been ongoing for some time. It spans from basically San Isidro Road to San Leandro. That's nearing the end of construction. We expect maybe 3 or 4 more weeks of construction. They plan to do a slurry seal on the street, so you should have a nice, clean looking street. You can't see all of the pipeline installation markings. We will provide, there will be some traffic impacts on Santa Rosa during that slurry seal. We will maintain 1 lane of traffic, and there will be notice provided to all of the customers in the area ahead of that taking place. On next Monday, we will be restarting our smart meter program. Back in March, when the coronavirus began, we put that project on hold. But we are picking that back up again beginning next week. We've installed to date about 70% of the meter replacements. So we've got about 30 left, and we expect those to be completed sometime before, say, early December, in that time frame. That's just the meter replacement portion of that program. The actual smart part of it, which will be beneficial to all of you and the rest of the customers, will be coming in the next 6 months or a year. We have some permitting we have to do with the county, and then installation that has to take place. So, but the new meters will be installed, and then within about a year or so, we'll have the smart meter technology up and running. Well, you'll be able to track your water use on a regular basis, be notified if there are leaks that have occurred, or if you have some sort of a continuous leak. And then lastly, on Fernald Point Lane, we also have a water main replacement project that is expected to begin next Monday. It's primarily from the creek at Ramiro, the bridge at Ramiro Creek, into the gated community, so headed to the east. So unless you're on that far end of Fernald Point Lane, you probably won't be impacted by that project, but you could be. So be aware that's going to kick off on Monday, and should last through about the end of October. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions about this or anything else that you might have.
Megan, I have a question.
Go ahead, Cindy.
If anyone wants to opt out of the smart meter, can they?
Yes, they can. If you're interested in opting out, just contact the district and we will put you on a list of those interested parties. I'll just note that the board has established a fee that it will charge to manually read those meters that aren't in the program. That's because we have a consultant that will have to continue to pay to once a month drive around and take reads and report them to the district. So there is a fee that the district has established.
Okay.
Peter?
Yeah, when the smart meters are all finished and this whole project is complete, will that require the installation of receiving units on poles? In other words, pole installations that will pick up the messages from the meters, or however that works? Will that require anything in the way of infrastructure like pole installations to hold more equipment?
Yeah, so we're in the process of working through that now. There are some instances when a pole could be needed. We're trying to, I think there are a total of 21 what are called collectors. There are devices that are located somewhere within the community to pick up the signals from all the meters. About half of them are located on district property. In some cases on the side of a tank or on a well site. We are also partnering with the gas company to install I think 7 of the 21 on existing, or at least poles of the gas companies either in the process of installing or have already installed. So we will be sharing the poles in those locations. And then there's a handful we are in the process of determining and finalizing at least potential locations, and then we'll be proceeding through the permitting process with MBAR and MPC and the county, and ultimately getting approval to do that work. So that's that 6 months to a year-long process that I mentioned earlier that we're in the process of going through now.
But beyond the gas company sharing there, you envision possibly how many more poles actually installed by the water district?
Yeah, there are a few. I don't have the exact count with me. I know it's under 10. Like I said, there's about half of them are going on existing infrastructure, district infrastructure, and about 7 we're partnering with the gas company. So that leaves 5, somewhere around in that neighborhood where we're looking for a property owner that's willing to put a pole on the property and install this this device.
Okay, thank you.
Marshall, what's the guess?
Nick, what is the lifespan of these?
Of the collectors or the meters, or both?
Both.
So the meters have a guaranteed meter accuracy for 10 years, and they're prorated for the next 10. So the meters we're installing are ultrasonic meters, which basically means there's no internal parts. Normally you can envision a propeller and they're spinning. Well, that deteriorates over time. You get breaks, it doesn't read right. You get twigs in there that might foul up the meter. These don't have anything like that. So they're in theory, there isn't a whole lot of parts. There's no moving parts to really go bad. The 20 years is more of a meter manufacturer warranty. And the collectors have somewhere, equipment somewhere in that same range, 20 years or so, when it would need to be, could potentially need to be replaced.
Okay, thank you. I heard somebody else start speaking. Marshall?
I was wondering if you could give us an update as to where the SGMA process is for the Montecito Basin.
Sure. So the Groundwater Sustainability Agency meets quarterly. It meets in October. Going off of memory, I think it's the 14th, but I'd have to check. We are continuing to move forward, working with our consultant on the plan development. It's still in the fairly early stages of that plan development. We recently, if you may recall, we acquired grant funds to implement projects that would provide data that would help support the plan. And so we're in the process of implementing those projects through the granting agency now. We've also formed a stakeholder advisory committee as well as a technical advisory committee who are meeting about quarterly as well, and that may change going forward. Just depends on what it is that's taking place at the time. But they are meeting to review the process and documents that we've prepared to date and provide input before that ever makes it back to the board. So yeah, so things are still moving forward. But obviously, it's a 2 or 3 year long process just for the plan development. So there's still a ways to go.
At this point, has the consultant determined that that current extractions is at or below safe yield?
They have not. No. They're in the process of finalizing the what they think is a good count for wells in the basin. There is a project that's funded by the granting agency that will allow us to offer some sort of rebates or potentially install meters on well owners that are interested in having a well installed, so we can monitor extractions. That will help us quantify what extractions are taking place. At this point, we don't know for certain how actual extractions compare to safe yield of the basin, but that's certainly something that's coming up. I would say probably in the next 6 to 12 months, we'll be gaining a better handle on that.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Nick? All right, thank you, Nick.
You're welcome.
Let's see, I will go to Lieutenant Arnaldi. Butch, you are up.
Now, unmute him. Butch, I'm trying to unmute you. There you go.
There we go.
There we go. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Thank God it cooled down. And to be brief, I'm just going to report on 6 crime items that happened since our last meeting. The first occurred on August 15th. It was a reported fraud that occurred on Fairway Road. Someone obtained the information on the victim, personal information as regards to their address and personal information, and attempted to rent out the residence. So thank God that was caught before the actual transaction took place. Next item was on August 19th. It was a moving company. The victim believes it was the 1200 block of East Mountain. Was hired, and he believes that they stole $1,000 worth of paintings.
Mm.
Also on that same date, on 200 block of Hot Springs, we had a residential burglary in which, thank God, the Suspect was still on scene when deputies got on scene, and she was arrested. And she had the same last name as the actual homeowner, but there were no relation whatsoever. So this gal was booked, taken into custody and booked for residential burglary. Then on Tuesday, August 25th, we had a couple of beached vessels there at Butterfly Beach below the cemetery. And this one's kind of tragic because the gentleman was making all the attempts to remove the boat along with a friend later on early in the morning, and he sustained a medical emergency and actually died there on the beach. And talk about a good friend. The friend did come back and remove the vessel as well as the dinghy and the Zodiac. So all three vessels were removed within 2 days. So we didn't have to use grant funding to remove those vessels. The last incident that I want to report occurred on September 4th, which was Friday, and this was a theft of mail, and that occurred in the 600 block of Oak Grove Drive with a vehicle description taken, but so far there's been no further leads on that. The other thing that I would like to report on, this is a burglary from August 28th of 2018, so a little over 2 years ago. Same victim in this case owns two residences, one in the 600 block of Hot Springs and the other in the 700 block of Garden Lane. And he was the victim of over $18,000 in property was reported stolen. Fortunately, an arrest was made in that case and $14 million in property was recovered. And the person that was responsible has been sentenced to 5 years in prison. So that one turned out well for being over 2 years old. And then the last thing, I'm sure everybody saw that the National Forest was closed as of 5 p.m. yesterday afternoon, and that'll be on a day-by-day basis. So I don't know if it's still closed. And lastly, we're still working on that proposed parking restriction ordinance that I've been briefing you on the last couple of meetings. The list of invitees and players have been identified, and we'll get information out to those so we can have a pre-meeting to find out which is the desires of the truly affected people. And again, as you're well aware, the holiday weekend, we had a strong presence of law enforcement along all our beaches and trailheads and parking areas. So again, happy to report that went very smooth Friday, Saturday, Sunday, as well as yesterday. And that is basically the end of my report, and open to any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Butch. I've got one question. The mail theft, you said it is an identified vehicle for yes. On September 4th. What is that vehicle description? Are you able to share that?
That vehicle was reported as being a silver Hyundai, and it was a female subject, was described as being the driver, and she was wearing a gray shirt and black pants. So if anyone in that neighborhood happens to have video cameras that face the street, if you could please check that. And it happened a little after 2 in the afternoon. So if you do have camera surveillance, if you could please check with that and see if you can see that. And if you do, by all means, give the Sheriff's Department a call, and hopefully we'll be able to identify the person even further. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And this is just a point of clarification from the 2018 one. You said $18,000 stolen, but you said 14 million recovered.
See, I made a mistake. It was 18 million was stolen and 14 million recovered. Sorry.
I was hoping it was the other way around. Wow, that's staggering. Okay.
They're very staggering.
Okay, any questions for Butch? I see, Robert, your hand is up. You need to unmute yourself.
My first time, sorry. Lieutenant Arnoldi, are you able to share who the moving company was?
Let me look at the notes and see if they, generally that's not put down.
Mm-hmm.
No, with the information I have in front of me, I do not, but I can do some research. And if you wish, I can let your executive director know the name of that moving company after I've done my research
Great,
and disseminate it that way if that would please you.
Thank you so much. I have
Thank you, sir.
one brief comment for you, Lieutenant. I had the opportunity to call the Sheriff's Department on a neighborhood matter a couple of weeks ago, and didn't want to call 911, but weighed the odds and decided. And 2 squad cars rolled up here in less than 10 minutes. Had a great interaction with Sergeant Calderon, and I didn't get the name of the other partner, but just wanted to say how thankful I am to have your sheriffs taking care of us 24/7 every day of the year.
They mentioned to me that they had a conversation with you. Yes, sir.
That was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments from the board? Hearing none. Thank you, Lieutenant Arnaldi.
Thank you.
You may put yourself back on mute. And Kevin Taylor.
Hey, thanks very much, Megan. And hello, everybody. Thanks for an opportunity to give you a short report, and I promise to be short. So I don't need to tell all of you that we're in the middle of fire season. We're seeing unprecedented fire behavior all across the state in the last 3 weeks. Those large fires are being dominated by the plume, which is those very impressive photos that you're seeing in the news media and social media. 2.3 million acres and over 1,000 homes have burned so far this fire season, and there have been over 7,500 fires. And just to give you some perspective, last year at this time, 118,000 acres had burned in 5,000 fires. As Butch mentioned, 8 of our national forests in California, including the Los Padres, closed at 5 p.m. yesterday. And this also is unprecedented, something that we haven't seen before on that scale. Locally, you all experienced our first fall sundowner and red flag warning of the year on Sunday. We had those 100-degree temperatures, single-digit RHs, and offshore winds between 25 and 40 mile an hour for about 20 hours that were very quickly followed by the marine layer push and that influence that we're all under right now. However, south of us in Ventura and Los Angeles County, they are experiencing their first Santa Ana winds and red flags of their traditional fire season, and those both started this afternoon. Our fire department has 10 firefighters assigned in the south, north, and central part of the state, as well as extra staffing on duty during the red flag events. I wanted to alert you that this Thursday, at 10 a.m., our organization is partnering with Mirage to do a wildland preparedness training event on Zoom. And I'll make sure and send that loop to Sharon so that she can share it with you. We'd welcome all of your attendance. And then to conclude, I wanted to alert you that we have engaged Atkins Engineering and the biologist Kevin Cooper to update the storm risk decision map as it relates to debris flow risk one last time this fall. And that map will be published in early December of 2020. That concludes my report, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Kevin.
Oh, I have a question.
Will you be recording? Hold on one second, Sydney. Will you be recording Thursday's presentation?
Yeah, of course. It will be recorded and hopefully up on our website by beginning of next week.
Right. Okay, Cindy, go ahead.
And the Mirage event is open to everyone?
Yes, absolutely, Cindy. It's, I think our limitation on Zoom is 500 attendees. So I don't think that we will reach our limit, but everyone is, of course, welcome.
Great.
All right, it does not look like there are any other comments. Thank you, Kevin. All right, that brings, actually, Darcel, I see you're on. Darcel, was there any update you wanted to provide from DAS's office? And if so, you're on mute.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Yeah, so, I mean, the Transportation Committee might give you most of the updates about the road repairs, but the good news is that the $10 million in road repairs that we got from the SPE funding are mostly complete, and they just need to finish up a little bit. Then we're going to be starting our annual, what's called the roadmap paving, which is going to be on Olive Mill, Channel Drive, and some of Hill Road. Is going to be started in a couple of weeks. And then Hot Springs from the Triangle up to 192 will start next spring. And then the Hot Springs walkway, so that's like, you know, how I think we've talked about how we want to do the continuation of the walking trail, basically, that's on Jameson, up through Hot Springs. That's going to be getting started. It's going to go to bid this winter. I'm really excited that the bridge at San Ysidro Ranch is going to be under construction this winter, finally. I feel like that's one of the things I get asked the most about is when are we going to get that bridge replaced? And finally in winter, it's going to be going to construction. So that's really exciting. The no parking is continuing. So some of you may have seen, or the 2-hour parking is continuing on one side, on the south side of Miramar Avenue West, the west end of it. There's no parking on the north side. And on Humphrey South, the part by the railroad tracks, there's no parking on the north side there too, and 2 hours on the south side. And you all, everyone who's happy about that, which I hope most folks in that neighborhood will be happy about that. You can thank Chief Taylor, he's the one that requested it, so that their fire trucks can get through there safely. So, and then Hot Springs Trailhead, we also have 2 hours parking on weekend days. And I have a little bit of an update on short-term rentals, not much of one, but I know that there's been some concern. So last week, the board talked about short-term rentals in the coastal zone. So some of you may know, I think Sharon's talked to you all about how in the coastal zone, which in Montecito actually goes up pretty high, there's no regulations on short-term rentals right now because the Coastal Commission has rejected everything we've tried to do there. So the board discussed, you know, what options they might like to see that, and we looked at Pacific Grove, which is an unincorporated coastal community that had a short-term rental program that got approved by the Coastal Commission. And so they did a lottery. Our county council doesn't really like the term lottery, so we're gonna try to figure that out. But having a cap on how many that we can have, which I think we're looking at somewhere between 140 and 200 in the total coastal zone. So that's not just in Montecito, that's our full county coastal zone. And DOS fought really hard for we heard from a lot of quite a few Montecito residents about treating south of the freeway different from north of the freeway. And so DOS asked for that to be put in our ordinance. So that's going to be coming back. And then also trying to favor primary home ownership. So that's the way that we have our short-term rentals in the rest of the county, which are called homestays, where it's basically like the owner is on site when they're renting out part of their home. So we already tried to do that in the coastal zone, and that got denied by the Coastal Commission. So we're going to look at ways that we might be able to do that so that we're not advocating for, you know, Airbnb and stuff to come in and buy up houses in our communities and then rent them out. So those are some of the things that we're discussing. It's going to come back to the board again. Well, it's going to go to the Planning Commission probably first, now that they've gotten some board direction in terms of what the board might want to look at. So I'm going to put in the chat. So I was talking with Megan and Sharon about, I know there's been a lot of concerns about folks thinking that people are doing STRs in places where they're not permitted to. And so if that's the case, I'm going to put the link in the chat of where you can go online to file a complaint or the phone number that you could call. I told Sharon and Megan that you can send it to me, but honestly, it's better if you just go directly to planning because we're not supposed to interfere in zoning violations. So it will just make everything a little bit cleaner if you do that. So I'm going to put that in the chat. And that's it. Oh, no, real quick. Sorry, Megan.
That's okay.
So I think you all know, Lisa Valencia Sherritt in our office. She's been attending these meetings for the last year or so. And she's worked really, really closely with on the Thomas Fire and the debris flow. So she took an opportunity with Family Service Agency to be the coordinator for the Housing for the Harvest program, which is housing for COVID positive ag workers. And so we have a new person in our office, Esmeralda Estrada, who's here sitting behind me. Sorry, we're in bad lighting, like the best way we could sit 6 feet apart. So Esmeralda is sitting in and learning a lot about Montecito. That's why I keep leaning over and explaining to her what certain things mean and stuff. So she's still learning, but yeah, say hi to everyone, Esmeralda. Yeah.
Welcome, Esmeralda.
Okay, that's all now, for real.
Thanks, Darcel, and I appreciate you guys making the effort to stay 6 feet apart, setting the example. All right. Moving on in the agenda item, next item up is President's Report. We do have 2 conference agenda items, so I'm going to be very brief on this. Because of the holiday, we did not have our normal meeting with DOS this month, although as Darcel mentioned, we've been having ongoing conversations. The only thing I wanted to bring up for the board specifically is that we are in September, shockingly. We need to start thinking about our nominating committee, so there's a handful of you that will probably be hearing from me in the next week around participating in and or helping to lead the nominating committee. Will include who is terming out at the end of this year as part of that, but there will be a task at hand, and that will probably take up some time between now and the October meeting. So I ask the board to keep your eyes and ears open for that. And if anybody would like to raise their hand and volunteer for it as part of my consideration, just email me directly. Otherwise, I'll be reaching out and appointing individuals that have the bandwidth and the history with the organization. All right, Sharon, do you want to skip yours and move it after the conference agenda? Do you want to run through your items quickly?
No, Madam Chair, I think the right thing to do is just to move it after the conference agenda items. I think we have quite a few people that are interested in both of these agenda items.
All right, so our first conference agenda item is Charlotte Hollifield with a special districts presentation. I believe you're going to be made co-host so that you may share your screen.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Board members, staff, and guests, I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. And a special thank you to you, Sharon, for being receptive to the idea of someone coming and talking about special districts. Not a lot of people might think about them, but they're important to know. So I appreciate the opportunity. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. See if this works. Here we are. Here. There we are. Okay, very good. So I'm with the California Special Districts Association, and we represent all types of special districts across California. My particular area that I work in is the counties of Ventura, Santa Barbara, SLO, Monterey, Santa Cruz, and San Benito. I live and work in Ventura. I spend a lot of time in SLO as well. I'm a gaucho. I went to Cal Poly, and I'm a former staffer for State Senator Gary Hart, who many of you may remember represented Santa Barbara County in the state legislature for about 20 years. And immediately prior to coming to CSDA, I worked for a special district, a water district in Camarillo. So today we're going to talk about a few things. What is a special district? What services do they provide? How they're governed? How they're funded? And what makes them so darn special? A quick overview of CSDA. As I mentioned, we represent all types of special districts. We're a membership organization. We have 1,200 members out of the 2,000 or so special districts in California. We've been around 50 years. We focus on advocacy, professional development, and member services. And when I say advocacy, I mean legislative advocacy. We have 3 registered lobbyists on our staff in Sacramento. They analyze a number of bills impacting special districts all over the state. They take recommended positions to our board. Our professional development team really is focused on good government growth with our special districts. New general managers can get training. We have trainings for boards and staffs and board secretaries So we really focus on professional development of the staff and boards of our membership. And something new in 2020 we focused on is federal advocacy because of COVID and all of the funding relief that's been at the federal level. Special districts have been largely excluded from that relief. So we've really worked hard for the kind of the first time in our history at the federal level to get special districts included. And we were actually successful in having Congressman John Garamendi introduce a bill, the Special Districts Provide Essential Services Act. It's HR 7073. It's co-sponsored by Salud Carbajal and many other members of our congressional delegation. And basically it just says, please include special districts in the Coronavirus Relief Fund. A companion measure to that has been introduced in the Senate by Kristen Sinema and John Cornyn of Texas. And so we are really hoping that those federal advocacy efforts pay off, and many of our members have written letters. Some are on this call today. So we are appreciative of all of our members trying to push that forward. So what is a special district? Well, it's created when residents vote to create it. It's funded by a community's residents, and it's overseen by their residents. And it happens when a community wants it, when they want a service done well, and they want it done with local control. Brief history of special districts. In 1887, local farmers formed the Turlock Irrigation District in California's Central Valley in response to a specific need. A mosquito abatement districts were next up in the San Francisco Bay Area. The spread of malaria, that dictated a need for those types of districts. And they've really grown with population and demand for services in California in the 50s and 60s. It became obvious that communities needed more hospitals, healthcare, water, and wastewater districts. So they formed special districts to meet these needs. So how many districts are there in California, special districts? Well, 2,000, as I mentioned earlier, that probably sounds like a lot. It's not as many as it has been. 1997 was the peak with 2,300, and now we're just over 2,000, while the population since 1997 has increased by 10 million. So it's clear that those 10 million people still need services as well. So our special districts are doing more kind of with less. And the reason that they've decreased, one of the main reasons, is that sometimes special districts consolidate and they perform services, that were done separately more together. So across the US, though, there are 30,000 special districts that provide an array of services, all different types, and we will get into the types shortly here. Couple of definitions, not to get too wonky, but there's independent and dependent special districts. So independent districts have independent local boards, like the Montecito Fire Protection District and the Water District. As you well know, they have elected boards by registered voters in the service area. Dependent special districts are different. They're subsidiaries of a county. For example, the governing board of the Santa Barbara County Air Pollution Control District has the 5 county supervisors and a representative or the actual elected official from cities in the county. So there are about 2/3 independent special districts and 1/3 dependent, at least in California. So when we talk about independent special districts, these are some things that they're not. They're not part of a state, city, or county government. They're not a school or college district or a JPA or a nonprofit, a county service area. They're not assessment districts, Mello-Roos, improvement districts, or permanent road divisions. And those are just kind of important distinctions because if you were to go on the state controller's website, you might see some different numbers for special districts, and they cast sort of a wider net. They include cities and counties in some instances and CSAs. So our number is right at about 2,000. But if you ever see a number more than that, that's because there's might be some additional agencies included. So let's talk about what the services they provide. They're very specialized, but they're very diverse. Kind of 3 main categories. They provide essential services, as you well know: fire protection, healthcare, mosquito abatement, and vector control. Police protection to some degree, not a ton. Infrastructure, certainly: water, irrigation, sanitation, resource, land and water conservation, electricity, airport, ports, harbors, and transit. And there are examples of these in Santa Barbara County. Most of these exist in Santa Barbara County. Some example of these special districts. And then we also deal with quality of life, rec and park, library districts, veterans memorial districts, and there are lots and lots of independent special districts that are public cemeteries. Special districts can provide a single service or more than one. Most do a single service, like your fire, your water, port, harbor. Some perform multi-services, and that's community services districts, which can provide water, rec and park, lighting, an array of up to about 32 services CSDs can provide. Municipal water districts, they can provide water, wastewater, and some additional services, and utility districts can sometimes provide more than one service. So, quick pop quiz. Just thinking about what you know about special districts in Santa Barbara County, a little bit what I've talked about, just have in your mind, nobody has to do anything on a Zoom poll, but how many special districts do you think exist in Santa Barbara County? 13, 68, or 40? And the answer is 40. And I'm just going to give you a rundown of some of the services that they provide. There are 8 CSDs, 7 cemetery, 6 sanitary sanitation, 4 water, 4 RCDs, resource conservation districts, 2 rec and park districts, 2 fire protection districts, 2 airport, and 1 each of healthcare, mosquito, and transit. So this is, I think, a pretty compelling slide to show the different types of services that special districts provide. And there's multiple examples, as I said, in Santa Barbara County of districts that provide an array of services. So let's talk about how they're governed and funded. They're established under state statute. Briefly going over this, there's 36 state statutes known as principal acts. So a rec and park principal act will have sort of the guiding principles of how rec and park districts should be run. Each type of special district has its own principal act. Alternatively, it's not super common, but a special act can be passed by the state legislature to allow formation of a special district. You can read all about it on our website, Laws Governing Special Districts. But this slide is really just to point out, like, there is an overarching state statute for all kinds of special districts, and some oversight in that regard. Governance and accountability. Board of directors that are either elected directly or appointed. And accountability is a really important piece. Sunshine laws apply across the board to special districts. We have to have open and public meetings and adhere to the Brown Act. Even in these times of remote meetings, we have to adhere to that as well. Have to adhere to the Public Records Act. Typically, special districts have to have a financial audit every year. Finance reports must be posted and provided to the state controller. And every 5 years, as your organization probably knows, there are MSRs by the local LAFCO describing the special district and if it's providing the service as it's supposed to. And there are required ethics trainings for districts. And I'd also just like to point out on this slide, it's not on here, but at CSDA, we have a separate foundation, Special District Leadership Foundation, that we promote good governance. It provides intensive training and certification in ethics, transparency, and best practices. And 2 of the districts on this meeting actually have been honored by our foundation for their practices in those areas. Montecito Fire Protection, Montecito Water District. Last October, they both received CSDA's Transparency Certificate, which is awarded to districts that demonstrate best practices in transparency, website content, and public outreach. So that's a great thing. Funding for special districts happens in a couple of ways. There's enterprise revenues that are direct charges for services like water, sewer, and electricity. Non-enterprise are linked to the property tax bill for services like parks, libraries, mosquito abatement. Parcel taxes and special taxes and benefit assessments, those can all exist. In states where ballot initiatives are allowed, special districts can request more assessments, additional assessments, but that's not always easy. And special districts typically in most states don't get a share of sales tax. So these are how they're funded, with direct payments or payments to the property tax bill. So what makes them so special? I think, in the interest of time, Sharon, I'm going to skip forward a little bit. It's a great video, but we're just going to skip forward here and talk about what makes them special. Is they just focus on specialized services provided by, you know, professionals, people who know how to do and deliver that service. They're voter formed, voter driven. It's a LAFCO process of forming a special district. Flexible and responsive. They provide a clear cost benefit. And really, to sum up, special districts are local service specialists. I'm stressed that they're local. They're designed to meet needs of the community, and they're specialists. They employ people who are focused on a single mission. So that's an overview of special districts. We have more at districtsmakethedifference.org if you're interested in learning more. But again, happy to be here and happy to answer any questions any of you may have.
So thank you. I wanted to mention that we sent out an email blast today letting people know about this meeting tonight and asked people, do you know how many special districts we have active in Montecito?
Oh yeah.
And you know we have several seats up in those special districts for election this year. I would like to point out that the person who got that right and who could name all of the special districts is on this call, and it's Vicki Hazard. And she was awarded one of our Montecito Association masks for getting that correct. And this is typical in some special districts. We often don't have enough candidates to run, so we do see the appointment process here quite a bit. But I didn't know if many of our board understood that we have 5 different special districts here. And actually they all reported to you tonight except for one of them.
Great. No, I'm pleased to know that. I'm glad somebody got it right and won the mask. So yeah, no, it's and again, congratulations to the districts, you know, who are exhibiting great transparency and public outreach. That's what we try to promote at CSDA. Well, very good. Any questions? Yes.
Trying to scroll right through and see if I can see anybody. Bob, I see your hand up. Just give me 1 second to make sure that there's nothing coming from the board immediately. It doesn't look like there is. So Bob, if you want to unmute yourself. Or Sharon, if you can help unmute.
Who am I looking for? Who needs to get unmuted? Jeff?
Bob.
Bob Hazard? Okay, I can, hang on, I'm just trying to see him. I don't actually, where's he at? You are. Okay, I just hit unmute for Bob Hazard, but you working?
Can you hear
There
me?
we go.
Now we can hear you. Yep, it worked.
Now we can.
Yeah, Charlotte, my question is very specific. We have a water district here in Montecito and a sanitary district. And there's a momentum towards creating one special district out of the 2. And there's lots of reasons for it. We could drop the sewer rates in half, and I'm not going to go into that. But the procedure, as I understand it, is you can either take that, if both boards vote unanimously to merge, that's one way they can do it. And the second way is it can go to a public vote of the citizens. Is that correct or incorrect? And what the intent?
Go ahead.
That does recycling, conservation, water, groundwater, etc. But it's all water, maybe even flood water.
Right.
Right.
I'll have to get back to you on that, Bob. I'm not exactly certain, and I don't want to give you a wrong answer, but let me get back to you on that. I'll ask my colleagues.
Do you have my email? Or
Can you get that to me, Sharon?
Yes, of course.
Okay, great. You got it.
Okay, Sharon, had you seen somebody else's hand up?
No, I'm just scrolling through.
Scroll through here.
Any other questions? And is anybody surprised to learn that you have 5 special districts here and that is, they're all independent? Okay.
I was surprised by the 40 in the county.
Did that seem like a lot?
It was the guess that I had, but it did feel a little bit high.
Yeah, it's surprising how many there are. Yes, but anyway,
what
thank
is
you for
the average tenure of one of them?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
What is the average tenure of one of them? I mean, is it
of a special district?
I mean, do you see them? Yeah.
It's fairly lengthy. I mean, consolidations, dissolutions, new districts, that's not super common. I mean, in Santa Barbara County, I think there was one last year, one the year before, and that's sort of typical. So they are typically around for, I would say, decades.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Charlotte.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate the time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Be well.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Charlotte.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you.
And Sharon, is that a presentation that we'll have access to that we can put on the website or share with our own membership?
Yeah, I can get Charlotte to email it to us if we want to. It's pretty good to know kind of how special districts work.
Just as just as far as a resource for the community.
Yeah.
All right. Item number 2, I'm not sure. It looks like Brett, I'm going to butcher your last name, Balint?
Balint.
Balint. I apologize for that. I just see Brett B on the screen and I was going off the paper, but I do see you and you are unmuted. So you will be speaking to us today on air traffic and helicopter potential project at the Muscle Shoals location. I'm sure as Sharon has shared with you, this community has been fierce advocates against helicopters as they impact our own community. But we are happy to hear you out today and use this as a facts gathering opportunity. I'm sure it will be the first of many discussions you have on the topic here and with others in the community. So I'll turn over to you. I don't know if you are presenting anything specifically, and Sharon, if you need to hand over control at that point.
You should have the ability to present.
Yep, I'm ready there to go. Just it is a little slowing down for me here, so stand by. I'm in speaker view mode. Yeah, Sharon, can you throw over the present, please?
You should have it.
Stand by. For some reason it's not showing.
It's not showing that you have the ability to do that?
Correct.
Are you in on any other screen? Because we've registered you as a co-host.
I am not, only the same link that you provided to everyone else.
Okay.
Appreciate your patience, everyone. Hold on a second. There it goes. Okay, it should be working now. Do you see my screen okay?
Yep.
All right, thank you for your patience. Again, my name is Brett Balint. My team and I are, as well as a few others, are here to present some options and some concepts. And you may certainly recognize this picture. Just a few slides on the ground here to establish a framework before we discuss the aviation topics. We remember the country a few name changes and expansions. This image is a little further south in Ventura. 2017 data measures 6,000 vehicles an hour. I found this interesting and relevant that the motto for the 101 Division's Airborne is tomorrow's division in today's Army. We'll come back to that in a second. Nearly 800 helicopters transit the area per month, and projected growth, we don't know when that'll be 1,000, but this growth is also dependent on who moves into the neighborhood.
Zoom meeting, so I'm going to keep quiet. Go ahead.
So the City of Santa Barbara Sea Level Rise Plan was published earlier this year. The king tides of 18 and 19 gave us a little preview of what that may look like for the airport. And who knows when this is, 10, 50, 100 years. Rail transit, I like the train. I take the train up sometimes when I can. We do have this California Bullets train situation here. From the highlights and comments from Senator Dale, you can tell the bullet train may be a COVID casualty as well. Would a Hyperloop ever come to the coast? It's unknown, but this is what an installation looks like. As of July, Hyperloop falls under the FRA, the Federal Railroad Administration. Can you see this animation okay?
Yep.
I don't think above ground was a good idea. So we're here to discuss three particular topics, and they're all very interrelated. Due to time constraints, we'll just say the 1,000-foot level, and again, details will be provided with some links on another site. Each of these topics, again, are very interrelated. So first off, we want to propose a feasibility study to modify and change the routing of aircraft in the area. Two, we want to propose an airspace monitoring for good and bad drones. We'll get into that. We are also in the concept stage with partners for an alternate helipad location. The study and request is for both noise and safety concerns for all the communities. And precedent for some of this is similar to how citizens near Orange County Airport successfully lobbied for and implemented changes there. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but there's no flights after 10 and nothing before 7 a.m., as well as some other regs.
Wait, what? Say that again, Brett. What is the Orange County reg?
No flights after 10 p.m. and no flights before 7 a.m. As well as they got very specific, certain craft have to have certain procedures upon departure, down to, Learjets can't do this, etc., which is good precedent. The proposed study is to be conducted by Dr. Rockus and her team from UC Berkeley. Dr. Rockus is with us and available for questions after this presentation. The next few months, our intention is to engage the communities in the area for their input. We'll assist with surveys for levels of interest in the study, refining it, and as well as deliverables. Funding is required for the study and for the FAA petition process. For example, defining aircraft is really essential. There are many different types, and we'll get into that a little bit later, or the next time we meet. Part two, the realities of a drone-enabled society are many. Certainly the good, bad, the ugly. We only briefly mention on these newsy type potential good drone topics. You'll note that in 2016, 4 years ago, that was when Amazon's first autonomous drone delivery occurred. And they're just getting their approval now for other things. Beyond visual line of sight, waivers are few, and the FAA remote ID standard is still in the debate process. This remote ID, kind of think of it as a cell phone in every drone, just so they can do greater tracking. Medical deliveries, that is where the predictability and money is currently for drone deliveries. So basically, no burrito by drone anytime soon. Okay, from our research, the other side of the equation on the bad drone operators and interactions are becoming far too regular. Intrusion, privacy intrusions, threats by drone, these are just realities. Too many people are still too passive about their posture and lack of situational awareness and being, again, passive in a detect and respond mode. AB 1190 has not progressed regarding some of these topics. Mm-hmm. And North Carolina did pass some legislation recently. It was illegal to take or distribute images of a person or their home without their consent. There's maybe something we can model there. There are technologies that can be deployed for individual homes, office buildings, or many square miles of a community to monitor for these type of issues. D-Drone is a counter-drone technology platform that basically personalizes security solutions. Again, this could be for a campus or community. They integrate to multiple different security networks. And there are many different manufacturers, different types of drones, and D-Drone has a history of detecting all and many of these craft.
Hey, Brent, can you talk a little more closely into your microphone? It does get a little muffly.
Got it. All right. I appreciate the feedback.
Okay.
Is that any better?
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. On September 3rd, they entered in a partnership with General Dynamics, and links will be provided so you can learn a little bit more about D-Drone as well. Okay. On the other topic, we propose to repurpose Rincon Island as a helipad. For the last 18 months, we've engaged with the State Lands Commission on this concept. And the pier is rated for 20,000-pound vehicles and currently in maintenance and some retrofit. And it's about 12 feet wide. I don't know if you've ever seen it out there. Just north of the island, Santa Barbara County, is the Rincon Park. There's an existing bus stop and facilities are available. Whenever I've been there, the parking is about typically less than 50%. And just south of the island in Ventura County is the underutilized Muscle Shoals parking area. There's a tunnel and bike path. I'm not sure if any of you bike down there. There's an existing Caltrans engineering for plans for a northbound ramp on the highway. And just a little further south is this parcel. We reviewed this with the state as well. That's a part of the availability. And we have a couple different concepts there. But those are the leases. Our proposal is to thoughtfully repurpose Rincon Island as a helipad in the near term. The existing airports in the area are not sufficient as part of a long-term solution with the communities. And we agree, helicopters operating over the homes of or from the homes of a few in the community is too impactful on the residents, animals, as well as the environment. Access to the island pier would be limited to restricted pre-authorized drivers and or contracted services for the public. We kind of like a canoe, this people mover. Jay Leno did a little garage episode earlier this year, and we'll provide a link to it. Canoe is currently in beta test here in LA. Two items to note about Canoe. They've announced the joint development with Kia Hyundai. We kind of like that. And Canoe is also going public soon with like some other EV companies. All right, we're focused on ensuring that operating Rincon as a helipad would have minimal impacts to the environment. Part of the reason we are so interested in the island, State Lands Commission has stated that extreme low probability they'll ever remove the island. That process would be too detrimental to the ocean ecology, surrounding kelp forest and sea life. You may have heard of some of these terms before: urban air mobility. With the help of NASA, they're trying to refine the industry terminology as advanced air mobility. But as a culture, we've been thinking flying cars for a long time. So what's the plan? Well, Bob had promised us and programmed us for flying cars by 2015. But here we are in 2020, and 2020 has different plans for us, but we got to keep moving forward. In addition to reality, there are no shortcuts when developing a new transit system. The reality is investments by the auto industry and the aviation industry are quite significant. Here are some of the few of the current aircraft partnerships in the air ecosystem. I hope you noticed a few California companies there. Let's look briefly at Joby Aviation. These aircraft are 100 times quieter than conventional aircraft. Toyota, Intel, JetBlue have all made investments in Joby. They have ample facilities near Monterey and hiring additional staff. Their aircraft is testing and progressing well through the FAA certification process. Their CEO states, "Our goal is to save 1 billion people an hour a day." We'll provide a link to that video for the CEO as well. It's just 2 minutes long, but it's worth it. The auto industry has been busy expanding from the ground and investing in a third dimension. There's just a These are just a few of the joint ventures and partnerships. Hyundai has made a major pledge in the ecosystem and is also developing aircraft. You see from Kirsten's comments here that were highlighted that they're intending on thousands of vehicles per year. No hype, this is reality. There's the McKinsey report that provides greater detail on a number of these topics. The impacts of the COVID has had on the aviation industry is still being determined. However, certain aviation segments have been accelerating and expanding. As an example, in California as well as in New York, there are these high school aviation programs. These students and programs need to be supported and replicated. I'd like to point out this one school. They've been training pilots for 30 years and drone pilots for 5 years. Barry and his teams were the first drone pilot schools authorized with grant funds for students from the EDD and California Workforce Development Board. They're also funding funding some of the students through some of the veterans programs. Last year, nearly half their students from in the Northern and California offices were funded in these programs. These students are on career paths, retrained and relaunching with positive trajectories. Okay, you may have seen some of these renderings of Uber Air Hubs. This is the point. When we think of going to the airport, this will change. Driving to LA or LAX in the pre-COVID traffic was typically 2 hours, and well, it was driving, right? Some of it could be soon it could be a 20-minute flight. I often think of how many people connections never occurred with family, friends, or business meetings due to our avoiding the drive and or being too tired from the drive and too much traffic. Now we Zoom, we FaceTime people, but we know it's not the same. We want to have real in-person smiles, hugs, and handshakes. I, for one, I know, I really am. I'm looking forward to tapping a button on my phone, being able to be transported to family, friends, and far more easily than ever before. Yeah, that's what's priceless. Okay, our next steps will be to continue engaging the communities, to collaborate for surveys for interest in the study. Again, this study is to reroute and reduce the air traffic and impacts to people in the area. There are multiple environmental studies that need to be conducted. With our partner Skyports, we'll begin that process. Our intention is to continue the steps of the State Lands Commission to repurpose Rincon as a helipad in the near term, and later as a Skyport vertiport for electric craft. Skyports is our partner on this island development. Andrew is also here with us today. He'll be available in the Q&A. Part of what we do is systems integration, and we also partner with D-Drone as well for some of these airspace monitoring issues. And in closing, let me mention a few things on perspective. On Twitter, I happen to be a follower of this Pessimist Archive. On August 8th, these popped up. They say 1 in 10 million years to achieve manned flight. 9 weeks later, the Wright brothers did their first successful flight, and 5 years later, their first public flight. Just something to keep in mind. It always comes down to 2 choices, right? Option A, leave the airspace as is and continue the aerial free-for-all and suffer the impacts. Drones, continue let others invade our space, privacy, and security. As for unregulated airspace and aircraft, I tend to think about this gentleman right over here. In 1912, could you even conceive what 6,000 vehicles an hour would look like? Can we conceive what unregulated growth of air traffic looks like? Or option B, let's be proactive, modify the airspace, reroute traffic, and regain some control. Monitor the airspace for safety before it gets even busier, and thoughtfully integrate these tech advancements into our communities. And most importantly, reclaim our time for travel. Thank you again. And there's some sites we'll have some further information on. And just one last reminder, it is California Coastal Cleanup Month, so let's do what we can. Thank you again.
Hey, Brent, you were referred to us by a couple of legislators that we work with. Is that correct?
I believe that's part of it, yes.
All right, so I believe Assemblymember Limón suggested you connect with us, and so did Congressman Carbajal.
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So, and this is very theoretical at this point, but you're looking at trends that are developing in transportation, and the fact that the Rincon Island is coming up for lease, right? That's why you're looking at this particular opportunity. Okay. All right. So, okay, I just wanted to clarify those couple of things for our board. Megan, did you want to open a Q&A? You're on mute, sweetie. There you go.
Sorry. I was saying, can we take the presentation down just because I need to be able to see on my screen where their questions might be.
Yeah. I'll take control. Back up. There we go. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Great. Thank you, Brent. And if we need to go back into that presentation, if anybody's got specific questions on any of the slides, we can certainly pull that back up. I will open it first to the board for any comments, questions. And it's probably easiest to raise your hand and let us know that you'd like to speak. The first hand I see raised is Chef. Sorry. Okay, Chad, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just need clarification. This heliport and later electric aerial vehicle port, is that open to private pilots, or is that just certain companies that will be using it for particular services?
Good question. At this time, it's in concept, so we're certainly open to input from the community. The concept there is also to not have vehicle storage. There is some idea for maybe a platform and maybe several vehicles staged down below for the morning commute to LA or something like that. But the intent is not to have it be your personal vehicle, stop there, drop overnight, that kind of thing. So Santa Barbara Airport may be that, or Arsenal would be better a solution for the long term. But if a aircraft is going to drop you off and a car service is going to pick you up, and then your pilot will take the craft elsewhere, that's the type of scenario that we conceive of.
Okay, Jeffrey, and then Robert.
There are some aspects to this that sound interesting, such as monitoring and control of drones. I think this community, right out of the gate, would have great difficulty with this concept. And the reason I think that is because the people of this region are very committed to preserving the earth, to respecting the ecology and how one thing influences another thing. I don't think many people come here because they can save an hour or want to fly in a helicopter of some sort. I think that it's just not us. I mean, it's nice and interesting and all of that. It reminds me of Utopia at Disneyland, but I don't think many of us want more things flying in the air around us. I think that we put our energy towards stopping this. We've done it before. And I think we would probably do it again. And no offense, and it is fascinating, but as far as the practicality of it and the desirability for the average citizen in this region, I don't see people buying it. I don't see people doing it. I think that there are probably better uses for that real estate. I think that we're upgrading our freeway, and right now during the pandemic, there's practically no traffic at all. Going to Los Angeles is a very easy thing to do. Now, obviously this is going to change, but the access is going to change quite a bit too. I do like the idea of mass transit. I think where you highlighted some other forms of transportation, but those are really interesting. And I mean no offense, but I don't think I'd want to live in a community that had so many overhead flights occurring. That's just not something I can fathom. But obviously, you put a lot of time and energy into this, and I wish you well. But I don't know how people would really get behind this. But
understood. Just to reply, just to clarify, our goal here is to, with the feasibility study, to make the air traffic routes off the coast so they're not over the people. And that's the intent of the study, and that's to move the existing aircraft as well as the increasing volume of aircraft now, and that's forecasted. These are aircraft that are for the island specifically and part of the Uber ecosystem would typically go to that island and then back down south. So they would likely not transiting your area. Potentially, yes, some could go up to Santa Barbara Airport. All that's to be determined. But the whole point of this is to get a handle on the situation early and to route the traffic properly.
Megan, I'm going to have to leave the meeting just for a few minutes, but I just want to say that I think it's actually a great idea, and I would tend to be in support for it. And I think not to negate what you said, Jeffrey, I'm sure there's a lot of people that wouldn't like it, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that would as well. I'll be back soon.
All right, thanks, Chad. Okay, so it looks like you got Robert, Penny, Marshall. I think you wanted to say something too, yes?
As time allows.
I'll be brief. I was wondering if we could hear from, maybe it's a question for Dr. Rakas, how long would the feasibility study take? And where are we in that feasibility study, if anywhere? And number two, the Hyperloop train you mentioned, is that literally the same company that's doing one in Dubai? From Dubai to, I'm lost on the other city.
Hi, Robert. I only wanted, would be entitled to answer the first question. A feasibility study would be done through our UC Berkeley Research Center, Aviation Research Center, and would be under my mentorship since I've been doing that on the community side for many, many years. It would take, depending on the urgency of the study, about 6 months to a year.
Thank you, Dr. Rakas. To answer your other question about the Hyperloop, I'll again provide a link at one of the sites so you can follow up to, but that Hyperloop is an international consortium. They have locations, I believe, in France and a few other places. I don't know, I'll have them all memorized off the top of my head, but it's most likely yes. But we'll provide you a link and you can, you'll see from there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we also have Andrew Cummings on the line as well. Sharon, if you unmute him as well. He's from Skyports. He's our partner and in concept, and maybe Andrew can comment as well.
Yeah, hi everyone. Andrew Cummings here, coming to you from foggy, smoky San Francisco. So first of all, appreciate the time. As Brett said, this is concept in nature. We think it's, it's really a great vision. We'd love to work with the community to try and bring something like this to life. If it's something that everyone found valuable, this is really about, in my view, a couple of things. One, as Brett said, maybe moving some of that helicopter volume and providing alternative options for landing. Moving that volume offshore, and then second of all, future-proofing the community. So as urban air mobility or advanced air mobility begins to develop, this is something that will be a great asset for the community in the longer run, to connect not only to Los Angeles but even further north. So just more things to think about. I look forward to providing any answers or helping provide clarity where possible.
Thank you, Andrew.
Megan, we're not hearing you though. You don't look like you're on mute. Not sure what's going on there, but it looks like both Penny.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Okay.
And Penelope has a question too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marshall, go first, and then Penelope.
The little island that, you know, when I was a kid driving past on the 101 thought was Hawaii. It has a kind of a special emotional spot in my heart to see the little island off the 101 there. Its current leasehold ownership is a controversial company here in Santa Barbara County for a bad environmental record and frankly, not very safety oriented. And so I think, at least I for one would be very interested to understand if this is an ongoing project of Greca Oil, or if this is, or related entities, or if this is something different.
Thank you. Yes, appreciate the question. Specifically, it's the State Lands Commission that has ownership and control and determines the next steps. So it's not specific to the company. They have, I forget the right terminology, but they hold the reins.
But Greca Oil holds the reins. Is this some? I understand that since it's in the ocean, it's still owned by the state. But is there a financial interest or role that the current ownership would play in this company or in this project?
To the best of my knowledge, no.
Okay. And then is this in terms of airspace and current flight patterns, would this require any kind of changes in current aviation route, you know, kind of IFR routes or something like that, in a way that would potentially redirect current traffic that is offshore to being onshore or something like that?
Brett, do you want to answer?
Yes, Dr. Please answer.
That is the beauty of it, because we are trying, as Brett said, to actually move away from these pads that already exist and that helicopters have, and they land at Santa Barbara Airport and some other heliport landing pads. We are trying to move that away from your skies, and so that the flights can go over the body of water into this vertiport or heliport. So the answer is very simple. These are VFR flights, visual flight rules. And originally we would start with helicopters. And where sustainability comes into place is that as cars are becoming electric and more sustainable, our smaller planes are also becoming electric, as we all know, or hybrid, hydrogen and so forth. So these VFR flights will not necessarily require special redesign of the airspace, as long as we know how regular helicopters fly. And these are in VFR uncontrolled part of the airspace below 1,200 feet and so forth, and where you don't necessarily need an air traffic control system. This is how helicopters fly.
No, I appreciate that this is a VFR lane, but when you stick a landing pad on what is currently an IFR route, does the IFR route have to potentially be redone such that we would have, you know, the approach into the Santa Barbara Airport suddenly has to be redone for commuter jets because we've got helicopters going up and down
yes,
the spot? So I think that was my question.
So you're talking about the imaginary surfaces and the FAR 77, which is the whole structure of the airspace above this helicopter pad. And this would be one part of the feasibility study, that where I would try to redesign and design these imaginary surfaces. We will try with imaginary surfaces that we use for helicopters and for helipads, and try to project that and see if there is any potential conflict with the existing, let's say, Santa Barbara airspace.
That was my question, exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
I've done that before. Even students in my class do that as a homework. Try to understand and create these imaginary surfaces and try to see if there's a conflict with some existing airport and existing restrictive areas.
And if I understand your answer correctly, is that that's work to be done in this study?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thanks.
Thanks, Marshall. Penny, you are unmuted.
Hi there. Well, no, it's no secret that I'm extremely against helicopters landing in neighborhoods. And from the beginning, this has sounded like really a dream, because that island, which is way the heck out there, and we don't want them drilling oil, and it's an ideal use of the thing. There's no trees, there are no animals, there's no birds, there's nothing, there are no people to be disturbed, horses to scare, and every other objection I have for people landing helicopters in neighborhoods. And obviously, if someone did have a private helicopter, like our friend in Summerland, he could land there, have a driver take him quickly down to Muscle Shoals. It would be much quicker for him than trying to get to the airport and so forth. But I think mostly it would be an excellent way for people to be getting off the highway, not for private helicopters, but for transportation. I mean, this seems to me to make a lot of sense, really a lot of sense. And as I say, I'm not a big fan of helicopters, but I think it sounds like it would potentially cut way down on the number of helicopters that are flying all over the place all the time. And there is no control. I mean, we all know there's helicopters every day flying all over the place. And this would, seems to me, cut way down on that, or could.
Exactly. And in addition to that, it would reduce and remove some of the traffic that is now interfering with traditional commercial fixed wing aircraft that happen at Santa Barbara Airport, which will make the airspace even safer because you will segregate the traffic.
Well, that's what sounds like it makes a lot of sense to me. I never thought I'd be advocating for helicopters, but here I am. Sounds excellent.
Yeah, Penny, you know, to add on to something because of what we just went through with Nesbitt and that whole appeal process. Yeah, if that heliport, this theoretical heliport existed, it would probably make it easier for our county planning commissions to find that people don't need a private heliport in their backyard, right? Because something's very close.
They shouldn't need any further information, but they do. So I'm happy this would provide it.
Yeah.
And coming from UC Berkeley as a public university, I will work with the public and with you, right? To make sure that the community is mainly satisfied and that these routes don't impose any additional noise on the community.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Penny.
I don't see any other hands from the board. I'm just trying to scroll through quickly. I do have a couple of questions. Oh, Cindy, you're on mute.
I'm unmuted. Okay, yeah, I agree with what everyone's saying, and I appreciate the fact that I think the biggest concern is how it impacts the communities. You know, both our community, Montecito, through Santa Barbara, through Hope Ranch. I know Hope Ranch has had a lot of issues with low-flying planes. So I think that the best that we can route them so that they're not going over the flight path of Santa Barbara, and we can keep and I'm not an expert in helicopters by any means, but to keep it more along the coast and not over the cities, that would be ideal.
That's the objective. Exactly.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments from the board? I do have, and I apologize, I didn't see it in the presentation. I don't know if it was, I just missed it. What is, you talked a little bit about next steps. Do you have estimated timings on when you plan to do any of these studies?
Good question. We're waiting for a little bit of feedback, and we'd like to coordinate not just with your association, but other associations to provide the same presentation. But again, it's hopefully within the next 2 to 3 weeks. This is the first time we're announcing this. I'm sure we're going to have some pros and cons comments coming at us. But again, we're trying to coordinate a little bit of that through a website we just established called rinconskyport.org. And the intent there is to make a public benefits corporation and structure that in a way that the community can influence, as well as the operations of not just here, but other locations that we have would like to repurpose from not just state lands, but other municipalities and potentially some commercial locations. But again, get the communities moving in this direction and developing skyports where they need. Some of these, the models that I'm sure some of the industry has developed with pre-COVID traffic, I'm sure are impacted now with the work from home challenges and changes, as well as commuter traffic. So there's many different things there. But to me, it's I'd rather see the citizens upvote. You know, what is this location? We want this. We want it here, or we don't want it here. Let the citizens try to influence and upvote where they want to have a skyport. So that's our goal, our next goal.
Thank you. And that takes me into the next question of what are your plans for community involvement and kind of outreach? It sounds like this is the first of many to come, but we've spoken amongst our own kind of executive committee about wanting to make sure that we're working in partnership. We're one of the only communities in the Central Coast that has gone through this recent kind of helicopter debate. And as I said, pretty steadfastly opposed it. You're hearing some other opinions today, I think, which is a good start, and they appreciate the benefit of that. But what is your plan for other community outreach? Because that is something that, you know, we will want to be involved with and ensure that this is a multi-community kind of embracement or opposition or whatever the case may be, but that we can be a good partner to everybody.
I appreciate that. Again, we're formulating our next steps, so we'd like to work with you on some of that coordination.
And I think after what happened just 2 days ago with the large fire and the evacuation that happened with helicopters, and how people were actually hugging the helicopter pilots and first responders, any of these vertiports or helicopters would also serve the community in those emergency situations too. So that is always very useful to keep on the back of your mind.
And I think in communities like this, those little tidbits, just coming from history of the opposition you've met or other groups have met coming to us, those tidbits and anecdotes actually, I think, go a long way to kind of addressing what some of the concerns are. So if you haven't seen any of the opposition that the Montecito community and Carpinteria and Summerlin have lobbed in against one individual's private permit and subsequent appeal, it would be worth becoming very familiar with that opposition and some of the commentary made.
Understood. Thank you for that. Yes, Daniel, who's on the call as well, and we did speak in Santa Barbara about 1.5 years ago opposing that permit process, and we have met the gentleman as well. But yes, we are fairly familiar. I know there's like 200 something letters as well. So this idea and concept was developed during that part of that time.
Great. Okay. I don't see anything else coming from the board. I will turn it over to public. If there's any public question or commentary, I do ask that we keep it brief. And if you do have anything, then either use the chat button or raise your hand. Don't see anything right now. Sharon, you're not seeing anything either?
Cindy, you still have your hand up. I don't know if you still wanted to talk or if you're done. And she's on.
Oh, I just see an icon for Cindy.
I see Amy Miller is raising her hand as well.
Amy, did you have something you wanted to say?
Amy, did you have anything? You're on mute. There you go.
Yeah, I might have missed that a little bit. I missed about 30 seconds of that. Are there provisions for emergency fire or any other thing on that facility to mitigate if there is, God forbid, another Kobe Bryant incident, something else that could become a hazard with the oil, fuel, the two things mixing, et cetera? I mean, like Marshall, I'm really familiar with that island. My dad was one of the pipeline contractors, and my grandfather that actually facilitated the building of that island. So I kind of know that you're going to be oil and water mixing there a teeny bit. And I just want to be able to ask the question for the future, people like Jeffrey, how safe is this? Will there be impacts? Will there be accidents? Are we prepared? Or are we looking at shutting down that artery again because there's an event that none of us want to have happen?
Thank you.
101.
Thank you, Amy, for your question. Again, we're in concept stage at this point. The state is capping all those wells, and their question to me a year ago was, you know, what do we want it to look like? I said, just flat as possible and cement everything down. And so that was the simple answer, but I'm sure with our partners, Skyport's safety and all those concepts will be thoroughly designed. Again, we're stating to, this is a helipad. A helipad is no aviation fuel on the island. A heliport does have fuel services, just to understand the nomenclature.
But the helicopters would have their own fuel, and if someone makes a miscalculation, is the only thing I'm talking about. And is that methane escape also going to be capped? That's up on the hill.
Thank you for the question. Again, I'm not sure of that detail, that level of detail at this point. We're in concept with this, and I'm sure more of those details will be dealt with. So that's where we're very high level right now.
Okay.
And Brett, I think it's probably not going to be the only time we're going to be hearing from you, right? Megan, you're on mute.
I'm on mute?
There you are. There you're back. Okay.
Oh, okay. No, I was going to say, I'm going to go out on a limb and say I don't see any hands again. But I don't know whether I'm missing one or not. If not, it looks like we will bring that portion of the agenda to a close. And thank everybody for participating. Thank you for bringing forward this presentation. We do look forward to future conversations, and to the extent that our association, either through Sharon and or the board, can be of assistance in facilitating those conversations. Keeping us more up to date is better than not, in terms of us being able to be an advocate for you, or kind of help steer some of the concerns that we'll start hearing about. Should come as no surprise that our community is a pretty active and vocal community, and if people get word of this without the lack of context or without context, it could be misinterpreted. So to the extent you can over communicate, err on the side of that would be my best advice.
Agree. Thank you. Yeah, we believe in engage early and often.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
All right, that brings our conference agenda to a close. Sharon, since we moved your report to follow the conference agenda, do you want to give us a quick run through?
Yep, I'm gonna give you the 30-second highlight report. First of all, Janet took on a project and got the website updated and some fresher content loaded on it. So yay, kudos to Janet. At Transportation Committee, back in play. Chad will have a report on that. Obviously, you guys all know we killed ourselves getting through the Assembly legislative session. I need to give a shout out to Doug Black for being a willing legislative analyst on that with me. And for everybody that hit the button to give Monique a comment, thank you. I had a talk with her last night. She said, yes, it was very loud and proud. So thank you. Mirage got out our masks last week. So lots of happy people there. We have new members. The Prince and Meghan Markle are joining at the $1,000 level. So we've now got them coming in as new members. So Meghan has a new thank you note to write. And for Amy and Robert, I hired an intern, Steve, and got the mailing list scrubbed against our current membership database. So if you guys want to design me a letter to drop out to do a fall membership drive, I'm ready. And then we're getting a new intern. I'm going to interview her tomorrow from Westmont, and she's got a background in law and public policy. So guess what we're going to have her be working on. And then we're fighting with First Street, the people that put out the flood listings that were horribly inaccurate that are going up on realtor.com. Could use a little help from the realtors in pushing back on that. Both realtor.com and First Street have contacted me and said, can you give me examples of the inaccurate data? So I sent them like 11 examples. They said, well, we'll just take these off the map. I said, that's not good enough. You needed to do a better job vetting. So for example, most of the properties across the street from Casa Dorinda, low flood risk. And we know that that is not even remotely possibly true, right? And some other properties way up on Mountain Drive were ranked high flood risk, also not remotely possibly true. So really pushing back on them. It's one of those tech company things. It's not good. I think I might have threatened media exposure. So hopefully they'll pay attention. And then Megan and I did a site visit with neighbors at Hodges and at Periwinkle to look at their undergrounding project. So we may have a little undergrounding project in pilot soon in the neighborhood, just in time for Durin's big mega land use meeting in October on that subject. So that's my ED report for the 30-second spotlight.
Good. Thank you. Very efficient. Any questions, comments for Sharon from the board? Nope. All right. Well, thanks for always staying busy and being our voice in the community. Moving to committee reports. First up, we'll go through land use. Duran, I think you are off mute and the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. Everything was pretty much said. Sharon reported on the SPE bill 1120. Basically, I think everyone knows what that was about, splitting the lots and adding possibly duplexes with, and actually that bill was killed. It was actually approved by the Assembly, but did not make it to the Senate. And it would have been a disaster for our neighborhood if that was going to pass. So also too, we're going to be looking at undergrounding for one of our projects and topics. And also too, that would be, I'm getting distracted here. I'm sorry, I have to go. So Sharon, my husband and everyone's here, so I'm going to have to go. So can you finish up?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, pretty briefly, and Peter can help. See you, Durant. Keep me honest on this. Yeah, we are going to look at undergrounding in October, and that's quite a meeting for that. And then what else did she have on the land use agenda? What else did she do? We did the county ordinances, and then I think that was it. I think that was it.
Yeah.
Megan, you went back on mute.
That brings us back to events and Houghton. Any update for beautification? Thank you.
No update right now.
Okay. Outreach, Amy and or Robert. Amy, if you're going to speak, you're on mute.
Robert, I don't know if you have anything else. That's great news that we have the list scrubbed and ready that we had worked on a year and a half ago. And Sharon tells me that we have 70 new members, which is great. We just need to pull our numbers up of the people renewing, non-renewing. And I am still astonished that almost on a weekly basis, I meet someone in town that does not know about the Montecito Association. So I'm always proud to educate them. And I think we'll be having more people coming in who just don't know what we do and are astonished by both the length and breadth of what we can afford them and help we can give them. So I'm hoping that Robert and I can get a letter out soon. Right, Robert? He's probably on mute. Anyway, I don't have very much to report at all.
No, that's great. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Penny, I see your hand up, but you're on mute.
There we go.
There you go.
I have a question. Why don't we ask the new owners of the Montecito Journal to do an article about the Montecito Association and the things that we can do for people?
I think it's
and who could write it?
Funny you
Who's a good writer?
Well, funny you should ask. I mean, Kelly reports back and incorporates any of her news from these monthly meetings in her column, but I know Sharon works with them as well and provides some ad hoc content on different topics throughout the year when they ask. So Sharon has been our go-to writer and does some plugs with them about the association and upcoming hot topics and a lot of our content from the newsletter itself. They repurpose and pepper in.
But what I'm talking about is an actual article. I mean, I know and Kelly does a great job of that column, but I mean, I think that like this is our association, because a lot of people, as Amy just said, that people don't know about it. And as an article, we want you to know that this thing is here and what we've done and what we can do and what we would like to do to help people who live in this community. I mean, it's almost like a news article. All kinds of people don't know about it. It's mystifying.
Amy and
so
I
we can certainly
article. Wouldn't we? Amy and I would be happy to write that article.
Good one. I think that's a great idea, and I would think that they'd be eager to run it.
Maybe Amy, Robert, you and I can take that offline and talk about next steps. One of the things that we have been talking about is doing a actual campaign, whether it's through direct marketing, postcard drops, to remind people of things about Montecito, what the association does, good things to know, resources, trying to be much more present on an iterative basis with our community so that we can share exactly, whether it's just kind of fun facts about the community, remind people why they live here, what they love about it, you know, why we don't have street lights to protect the night sky, and kind of really reinforce, because we've got a lot of turnover happening in the community. We want to make sure that they embrace the community in the exact same ways that we all have, and that we're maintaining and preserving that to the extent we can. So yes, I think between articles and different postcard drops and emails and continuing to do some of the good work that Sharon, Amy, and Robert are already doing, we should be able to build upon that. I think you're absolutely right, Penny.
The mail, sometimes people just toss the mail in the garbage at the, you know, because there's so much mail. And I just think that a newspaper, people pick up a newspaper because they want to read it, as opposed to getting an email or getting a piece of mail that they didn't ask for. That's why I think the newspaper would be the most effective. And the Montecito Journal is the perfect one, not the news press. So that's, and I know you guys could write a great article. So good. Just because you didn't have enough to do, Sharon, sorry.
Well, Robert and Amy said they're gonna write that one. I put one in last week. Well, I put one in last week that Tim asked for at the Montecito Journal that he gave a full page to, which I was very surprised, which was all about how we went to the mat fighting off Senate Bill 1120 and all the bills that did pass. And we have one going in this week, which is basically a recap of the Transportation Committee meeting that we did with Chad. So Tim likes hearing from us at the Montecito Journal. So, and so does Gwen. So I think they'll be happy to take, you know, an article.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I'm sure they're happy to support when Gwen took over or started work, create the community and do more outreach. So I'm sure they'll support it.
Did we lose Megan? We did. Megan, you're back on mute somehow.
Sorry, I was just turning it back over to Chad and saying, can he please unmute himself?
Oh, for the Transportation Committee? Did he come back?
For transportation, yeah.
He had to split for a while.
That's what I was saying. I don't know if he's back.
He might not be. Okay, well, if he's not, I'll give you a quick readout on.
Go ahead and give the update.
That was such a good meeting that, like I say, Tim wanted an article about it for the Montecito Journal, so we have obliged. So the basic big highlights about it are SPCAG presented to us at this meeting, the Coalition of Area Governments, and they did a really good job. Darcel was at it too. Here's the updates on the 101 widening. You guys know we submitted a letter of endorsement to SPCAG to apply for the grants to widen the freeway. They've applied. They will find out, we may be asked to participate in a California Transportation Commission meeting where California TTC is trying to figure out which jurisdictions to award grant money to, right, to build out their project. So they've applied for like $280 million on this. And we may be asked in November, around November 12th, to testify before California Transportation Commission about why we would want that. And the final determination we will find out in December. Construction starts 2023. They've already started staging at Sheffield. You probably knew that. You've probably seen that. The money for Sheffield has already been allocated. And the construction on that one starts November. So it's getting a lot closer than it used to be. And then we also talked about the roundabouts. Our Port Association has sat through probably 30 hours of hearings on this. Both roundabouts have been appealed by the same guy. And it's based on CEQA grounds. So the appeal for San Ysidro will probably be heard in November, and the appeal for Olive Mill will probably be heard next month before the Santa Barbara City Council. That's who the appeal was filed to. MPC, the Montecito Planning Commission, continued
Olive Mill roundabout to September 16th. So we still have one more hearing at least to go with them. Arnoldi told you about the beach trail parking ordinance. So you will get a call to action sometime in November to attend the Board of Supervisors hearing and pitch for that and put some community support behind that. He's also after a no overnight parking section of that ordinance. So this is huge. We're having some homeless issues. Everybody was calling me this morning about the lady at Butterfly Beach who's defecating on the sand. So there's a known problem. She's parking in the area. The Cool Bus has moved down from the Hot Springs Trailhead to Butterfly Beach. So no overnight parking gives law enforcement a lot more tools to be able to approach a vehicle that is staying there multiple days. So we should be on the ready to advocate in November. So a lot of advocacy in your future is what I see. I don't know if you guys know, it is illegal to park at Fernald Point. Does everybody know that? Were you guys all aware of that? Okay. So I've had quite a few neighbors call me really ticked off. They've been parking there for 100 years. It's like, and it's been illegal that whole time. And now people are getting ticketed. So just an FYI, if people ask you about that. The other question that we get a lot of stuff about is the Hot Springs Triangle. So Kristen gave us a read on that. Here's the deal. They're going to fix the rails on the bridge just north of the triangle, right? That's coming up this fall. And then there's the hiking path is also going in, and that's going all the way to 192 from Casa de Rinda. And so what they're going to do is they're going to put a berm around the triangle probably this fall to make it be able to withstand future floods. And then Casa de Rinda and community members will be landscaping it, but Public Works is going to take the lead. So if people ask you about what's going to happen with the Hot Springs Triangle, there's going to be a project there to make that look a lot better. Just FYI. So that was, Transportation Committee was pretty packed full of stuff. It was a really good meeting. Chad did a great job sharing it in his first time out, and the attendance by the agencies was terrific.
Cool. A lot of work to be done on that one. There always is. History Committee, no update here. That office continues to be closed. Which takes us to Treasurer's Report. And Kathy, I'm not sure if you are still on. I see you, but you are on mute.
I'm on. I had to move inside. We are doing well. We have fewer expenses this year, but we have about the same amount of income that we usually do. So we are looking very good.
Great. Did anybody have any questions on the financial, the P&L that was sent out? Nope. As Kathy says, it looks like it's in good shape. Okay, that brings us to any
Megan?
New old business. Yes, sorry.
I had one question. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I was just thinking about the credit card statements. It looks like we're paying a lot for credit card fees. Is there a way to reduce that?
Not really. That's what the payment processor charges. And I've been looking at the averages, and it's between 2.9 and 3.1% per transaction. So with the donation tool that we use, when we run a campaign like July 4th, or would you like to donate to a mask, we are able to set it up so that people can say, I want to donate the credit card processing fee. But when it comes to memberships, we are not able to do that because that tool just doesn't have a way to do it. So I've actually put in a ticket to the software manufacturer and said, can you find a way with memberships to allow us to have a button that says, yes, I want to cover the cost of the credit card processing fee? Because I've noticed on the donation side, people do. I mean, they're very nice about that. They will actually more often than not cover the cost of the credit card fee. And the tool calculates that cost for you, which is great. So they know what they're paying. But I need it on the membership side, and we don't have it. We just don't have that button on the membership side. So I'm gonna see if I can get them to create us that functionality, and that would help. But because we've gone virtual and because we've done so much online, we are doing 97% of all transactions online through credit cards. That is the way it's been working for quite a while now.
Yeah, I think if we just ask in membership to just increase it just a small amount to cover the credit card, I think most people would do that.
I think they would too. I just don't have the ability to plug in a button to let them do that yet. I just need that enabled. So I'm hoping I can get it in the next release of this tool.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe we can have that for next time, because that topic was brought up last time as well, and we had the same discussion around fees. Okay, that takes us to any business that the board would like to move forward, old business. And I will remind the board, if I cannot see your face, I have no idea whether you are raising your hand or not.
Megan,
Cindy
does bring up a decent point, and if you want to pilot it, we could try it. Cindy, you're right. We could actually change the online membership price to include the credit. We know what those fees are. So I mean, we could just bump it, you know, so instead of being 120 bucks, it's 123.37 or something, you know, right, for that. Because if you still write a check and stick it in the envelope, you would just pay that normal price, right? So if you could do it online, and we could put a note on there saying it covers the cost of the credit card processing fee. If you guys want to try piloting that, we could do that.
We could, but I think it might defeat the purpose. And I appreciate Cindy bringing this up because this was something I noticed too. And we do it where I work, you know, you can add that on as an addition to your whatever you're paying for. But I think if you add it on to the main price, then we're going to end up paying 3% or whatever the credit card fee
that's a good point.
That price. So we'll end up, you know, not really covering it in the way that we want to. But it's so often done now that I'd be surprised if this processor doesn't find a way to let us do that.
It does do it for donations because it's assuming that you're a 501c3 that, you know, people would want to do that. It's just not doing it for memberships. That's the problem.
The other options, Sharon, you might ask them is tip. You know, a lot of like some of these 501c4s that we're all donating to right now, probably because of the election, they ask you to do a tip. So maybe that's their workaround of the credit card processing fee since it's not really a deductible donation.
Okay.
Can I just add a comment about the tip? If it says tip on there, people might get the wrong idea about what that means.
Tip is a weird.
Well, whatever we could figure out. You can't just
Guys,
say.
I'm going to ask that we take this offline. There's ways that we can work around this. We can increase our membership fees to account for it online. We've got a few workarounds, but I don't know that we need to take the time on the board discussion to figure that out.
Right.
Okay. I didn't hear any old business come forward. Is there any new business to bring forward? Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I would ask that for the October meeting, the board consider endorsing Cold Springs' effort to raise money for a bond financing of their school improvement. And I could go down a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest ones in my experience many years now is that that end of Montecito has often felt very separate from this end. And I say upper and lower, you can call it what you want. And what a great way, among all these other reasons that we can talk about next month, to kind of develop a bond, at least express support to somebody who comes down and addresses our meeting. So anyway, I would ask that that be put on the agenda for the board to discuss an endorsement of that effort. Two things. The second thing is, and I'm popping two things around you, we gave the gas company quite a run for their money on the number of poles they put in for their smart meters. And in our discussion with Nick, it came out to almost the same number of poles that the water district may be installing. The one significant difference was that he said they're looking for homeowners that don't mind, which is great. But I would suggest a letter to the water district that outlines the issues that we brought up with the gas company and asking them to go out of their way to make sure that number one, they live at poles, and number two, if they have to put them in positively, it's with the approval, if you wish, of the homeowner who has to live adjacent to that installation. So two different things, but obviously new business.
Sorry, I'm just writing that down, Peter.
Gotcha. I don't know if I need to outline more reasons to bring it up in October for the board here, but the simple request on the support for Cold Spring is it's been a real problem. All these years, we've never breached that gap. And here's an opportunity, among other reasons. So I think we should go for it. We've done it before. Not with Cold Spring, but MUS.
Yeah.
Sharon, I had to leave the meeting for a while. Did you get to talk about the potential bike lane on East Valley?
I did not. I gave you a transportation committee meeting and made you look like a rock star, but I did not bring that one up.
Well, thank you. I don't think it's deserved, but one of the things that was mentioned was it would be difficult to put a bike lane on East Valley because of the utility poles, and they're very frustrated because the utility poles are being replaced and put in a way that they can't widen the road. And they said, if only we could underground the utility poles along East Valley, then we could put a bike lane in there. Well, I think that's something that we're all interested in on both accounts. So we may want to put that in for a future meeting as a discussion.
Okay, so it sounds like we've got 3 items for future discussion. I want to say that in the last few years, this might be the only 3 items that we've moved forward into new business for discussion.
You know, Megan, we've also discussed the endorsement of candidates, right, that are running in this autumn's election.
I was just going to bring that up.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Peter, your first one about the endorsement for Cold Spring and the bond L 2020 brings up the larger question about endorsements in general at large for candidates, special districts, school or otherwise. And so that probably begs a larger discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. One being nonpartisan at all, you know, bonds.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, since most of our membership is not in the Cold Spring district, we'd thoroughly endorse that their property tax owners pay more money to their school. So it's easy. That's a cynical.
No partisanship in that statement.
No.
All right. Sharon, you have those 3 items?
Yeah. So just to make sure, and what we want to look at for November is you want to look at the water districts.
October.
Oh, sorry, October. Yeah, I'm already thinking really far ahead. Okay. So we want to look at the water district pole placement, yes, for telecom monitoring equipment. And then we also wanted to look at the Cold Spring bond endorsement. And we also wanted to look at candidate endorsements, yes?
Yes.
Okay. And then Chad, we would fold in what you brought up about the bike lane. We would just fold that into a larger discussion we are already starting to have around undergrounding, which is going to be on the October land use agenda anyway. Okay.
Okay. Since we're on a roll with bringing new business forward, is there anything else somebody would like to bring forward?
Megan, is this when I asked for my endorsement? Is this the moment?
So Robert is
Robert is not when you asked for that.
This came up in. Sorry, this is Marshall. This came up in the transportation committee meeting, but it was a rollicking conversation between the Montecito Planning Commission and the City of Santa Barbara Planning Commission about the Oliveville roundabout. It wasn't agendized for this meeting. I don't know if we need to do anything other than pop popcorn and watch, but there's a lot of drama there, and I don't know. It's something we need to weigh in on.
It was major drama, and in fact, Santa Barbara Planning Commission made the decision to just approve it because they wanted to get out of the room, right? They were done. They were tired of it. They had failed to watch the San Ysidro roundabout deliberations, which took 23 hours of hearings. So I don't think they understood how the Montecito Planning Commission can meet for days on a roundabout, right? And so they have continued. So Montecito Planning Commission has continued September 16th. But I would say there is now fairly bad blood between those two chairs as a result of what went down in that hearing. It was a lot of drama.
I don't know if that's an item we need to discuss or play a role in. Normally, I try and shy away from controversy, but since it's something that has come before this board quite a bit, I didn't know if there was a role for us there.
No, this one's beyond, it's because it's those planning commissions, it's kind of out of our hands, but we should attend September 16th and watch how Montecito Planning Commission comes to final conditioning for the Olive Mill roundabout. That will be the final hearing on it until we go through the appeals process. Never a dull moment in Montecito.
All right. Any additional? Does not look like it. Although I've said that about 5 times this meeting and I've been completely wrong. Well, we broke our 3-hour time length. We're just under 2.5 hours. If there is no additional new business to bring forward, I will take a motion to adjourn this meeting. Chad, motion to adjourn. I'm assuming.
Motion to adjourn.
Who wants to second?
I'll second.
You can always count on me for that.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good evening. Be safe.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well done.